faster. Going to the maximum. Going to the maximum.
Morning, everyone.
Excellent. Good morning. Good morning. Thank you all for joining us this morning. So why don't we start off with a quick question about who you are and how marketing in the Web3 space applies to you. So we'll start with you, Todor.
Okay. Hi, everybody. As you already heard, my name is Todor Minev. I run a project called Meta Savages. It's a Metaverse project. We've been building that for the last 9 months, I would say. We are very close to launching our MVP. That's going to be happening in April. And we're just starting to develop our marketing strategy and route to market strategy for our project. So I'll gladly share some of the things that we've got in mind that are going to put us on the map as a project with people like yourselves and all the target audiences that we're looking for.
Great. And then Chris, you're with CRC Labs.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about the labs and what you do with your clients in the marketing side of things.
Yeah, so we're a fairly new creative agency. Our background is mostly in digital marketing and development, coding. But we launched this company this year to basically help new and existing brands. We help them build Web3 ecosystems around their brands. Are we allowed to shill our projects?
We'll do that at the end.
Okay, good.
Right now, it should be talking about
Yeah,
the
no,
marketing
but same as
side of
Todor.
it.
Same as
Yeah.
Todor. So we're building basically a metaverse for one of our bigger accounts, and it's been going on since March of this year, and we're planning to launch it Q2 next year.
Great. Daniel, and you are with IBH Media. Tell us a little bit about the marketing or PR side of your business.
Yeah, so we focus on visibility from a PR standpoint, getting projects, getting companies visibility through media, as well as helping them build out their own media assets, like their own TV shows. We've done a few, being able to tell their own word without having to rely on media doing it for them.
Very good. Excellent. Okay, well, I think that touches on a really good point. You know, the concept of PR and marketing is about knowing your story, knowing your message, and then conveying your story and your message to your audience. So, Todor, why don't you tell us about, like, what's the first step, or what was the first step for you in the project you're working right now, and, like, how are you building your audience or getting the story out?
Okay, so with our project, the main thing is connected to the, to the artwork and everything that goes with it, because we wanted to have a truly immersive experience connected to the metaverse that we're building. So we started building on a platform where nobody's building yet, Unreal 5, because it's a gaming platform. It's not that much used for metaverses because it's not like device friendly. You have to have like really high graphic capability to run it. So we are actually targeting gamers and people that want a truly immersive experience, and that is positioning us in a spot where we need to communicate the message to the right people, because not everybody is ready to use what we're building. So right now, the route to market strategy that we have and we're taking advantage of is getting into communities, which are mostly NFT communities, and offering them to bring them in, the whole communities, because a lot of the NFT communities lack a sustainable utility. We all know what happened to that market and how everything went down there. So what we are actually offering them is to build their own places in our metaverse and bring them in, not one person at a time, but a whole community at a time with their NFTs and their whole communities. So this is our route to market strategy to begin with. We've already signed a contract, let's say, not a contract, but we have a verbal understanding with 3 of those big communities to come into our metaverse. So that's bringing in like 15,000 people with one shot. So this is what we're doing at the moment to get people interested in what we are working on.
Okay, so if I hear correctly, your strategy is actually to work with other sort of market leaders, market makers that bring a whole audience with them to your platform.
Yes, this is essentially, it's a collaboration between projects like projects like the Crypto Bull Society, or there's all the planet apes. There's thousands of apes around that were sort of rug pulled, but the communities are still there. They have active Discord channels. They have active Twitter accounts that people follow and that they try to be a part of this community, but they don't have a sustainable utility. So
Right.
it's basically collaborations between projects that came out and, people are just using a communication channel within that community, but they don't have much more to offer. So we are offering them a place to expand and interact with each other in a much more immersive and metaverse way.
Perfect. Okay, so one of the questions here is, how do you go about creating a marketing PR strategy for your project, Metaverse project, Web3 project? So Chris, given that you guys have a firm that helps other companies with their strategy, what is the first step that you do with a client when developing their marketing plan?
Well, I think first and foremost, it starts with education, right? Like, we need to educate the Web2 communities on how they can sort of seamlessly transition to Web3, right? So our marketing strategy is always twofold. We start with education of our existing Web2 communities, try to transition them to our Web3 communities. And like Todor said, which is probably one of the most important aspects of it, is the collaborations with other communities, because that's probably the easiest barrier or lowest barrier of entry to sort of onboard those audiences to your own projects, right? But yeah, so to answer your question, really twofold. So education and collaboration
And are you working with like established companies that are looking for a Web3 component, or are you working with startup Web3 companies?
So I work with gaming companies that already have existing Web2 communities and that are looking to transition or to diversify their product base, right? So in this case, a Web2 company that wants to sort of explore and evaluate the Web3 potential for their business, right? So as you can imagine, every company is trying to diversify their revenue streams. And my main point to them is that this is a good time for them to start hedging on crypto due to all the sort of, this bear market, which sort of gives us easier access and minimize risk, right, of loss later on. But that's basically it, yeah.
And do you find that your clients have established marketing departments in their established companies already?
They do, they absolutely do. But again, those marketing strategies are very traditional, right? Web3 is a bit different, slightly different than what they're used to.
And so, I think one of the biggest differences has been that the reliance on sort of the Discord communication, and what I say is singing to the choir. So in this time, we're going through a crypto winter. Everybody seems to be in hibernation mode, except for those companies, I think, that are seeing the opportunity to build and keep communicating. So, and finding that bridge between Web 2 and Web 3, you got to get outside of Discord. It can't be just all in Discord, the communication. So what kind of communication tools are you developing outside of Discord?
Well, obviously we leverage social media quite a lot. Twitter is one of our biggest sort of investment avenues when it comes to that. But, what I like to really dive into is really the storytelling part of it and try to get as many people to relate to your project as possible in order to get them curious about your project, do their research about whatever you're trying to do, and hopefully get them to onboard. Even if it's just to join the Discord community, that's already a big win for me. They don't necessarily have to mint that NFT that will give them access to that metaverse, right? It's just growing that community consistently in a very sort of transparent and honest way, I guess.
And Daniel, I would like to ask you, so he talked about story. So tell us about what the process that you go through with your clients and figuring out their story and then the best ways to communicate their story.
Yeah, so I think when it comes to anything with visibility, and I've been doing marketing too for 10 years, it's understanding who the audience is. And I think that's a big challenge here, is I'm not sure everyone really understands who their audience really is. One of the projects that we helped with, their audience was much older. And so it actually took an entire year to launch the product. Because during that time, they had to get the product owner, the face, fully engulfed into, like they mentioned, different communities to be known for even Web3. Because I think if you do some things which we saw too quickly, it can actually cause negative reactions within the company. And there's a few that I saw last year do this. They added on, and then they try and basically remove it, and they kind of went back. So I think number one is start with if you're going from Web 2 to Web 3, have your company just getting out there, putting their face out there, start talking about it before you even release something. Just getting known for what you're about to do, what you want to do, talk about the future, and then you can start transitioning, adding on products, adding on services, before you go full on and transition your entire company. So something that we look at is, number one, who are we talking to? Who is the audience? If it's a different audience, can we connect with them before we try and sell them something? How can we build a relationship with that audience? And then start transitioning into products and services.
And I think that's really great. So one of the things that my PR and marketing company does, the first step we do is sit with our client and understand what their avatars are. Who are their customer avatars? Who are the audience avatars? Because like you just said, you can have multiple different types of audience members in your organization or that you want to speak to. You could have, like if you have a senior product, maybe you're selling directly to seniors, or maybe you're selling to the children of the seniors that will buy the product for the seniors. So you have to develop the messaging that goes to each person, because each person is going to receive that information differently. They may use different words, and they'll use different communication tools. Like maybe my mom wants it by email, and I want it by Twitter. So the first thing to do is really sit down and understand who are the different segments of the audience that you're going to target, what language do they use, and how are they receiving information. So I think that's really one of the biggest first steps to make. And then, crafting your story, crafting your language. Another question here are, what are some of the common mistakes people make when creating a strategy for their project? Todor, have you had a mistake?
No, not really.
You're
never.
perfect?
I'm perfect. Never had a mistake. But I'll try and elaborate a little more on that. And again, it goes back to what we were just talking about. Not identifying your audience correctly would be your biggest mistake, because that will keep you away from building the community that you're wanting to build. And all Web3 projects, as we know, are all about community and all about the people that you're going to get together, like-minded people. But as a metaverse, the concept of a metaverse, to me at least, is a concept of an alternative metaverse, which means that there have to be different people in there. So when you're building a product like this, it's not going to be only for the seniors or the kids or the people that like this or that. It's going to be multiple layers of different kinds of people and communities that you want to bring in there in order to create the diversity of the real world. Because, essentially this is what a metaverse should be. A much more, let's say, beautiful and immersive copy of the world that we live in. At least this is what we're trying to build in Meta Savages. So I would say that identifying these different layers that you're going to try to communicate to is going to be your biggest challenge, and finding the right way, because we all communicate in different ways. So pinpointing the community and the people that you want to bring one step at a time, because to begin with, our route to market is we want to build the gambling part of our metaverse. So people that gamble are a whole different breed of people, from the people that just do like gaming and stuff. So we need to find the right tone and the right language and the right tools to bring these people in. So once they're in, we're gonna start building another part of the community, and that way just structure it and build in the different layers one at a time. So to me, one of the biggest mistakes that you can make is not having the right tone and not being able to identify who you're bringing it with what kind of message.
Right.
So that would be we're not at the marketing stage, because I believe that, the marketing for these projects has to start probably about 8 weeks before you'll actually mint or open your project, because other than that, you're just building it too much hype, and then people get tired of your messages, and if you don't have something to offer. So that's why we haven't started yet. But this would be a mistake that I would like to avoid.
Thank you. I think runway is an interesting conversation. Like, how much lead time do you, give yourself before you really launch something? Now, that's one thing if you are just launching a particular segment of your company, but ideally you have a company that's running all the time. So there should be messaging all the time. But then if you have a particular drop or a particular special event that you need to talk about, yes, a good 8 weeks of runway to be getting people prepared. Now, what about you, Chris? What do you think is a big no-no in the marketing side of things?
I mean, listen, guys, for me, Metaverse is so early. Like, everything that we do every day, all our activities, from our morning meetings to our evening meetings, we talk about all the mistakes that we do. We talk about overspending on media channels that are not working. We talk about, how do we, optimize whatever Toto was talking about when it comes to, market segmentation, picking the right audiences. It's, at the end of the day, you will learn by just mini failing along the way, right? And I've been in my project since March 10th. I signed the contract on March 10th, and until this day, we're still not there, right? We're lucky because we're funded, which is amazing, but it doesn't excuse the fact that, we should be, wasting funds on things that don't work for us. So again, early days, I don't think there is a wrong or a right way to do things yet. Yes, from a traditional marketing standpoint, we know the fundamentals of marketing. We know how to implement and deploy those. But when it comes to Web3, in my opinion, it's just, the possibilities are endless.
All right, I'm going to ask one more question to Daniel, and then we're going to have a Q&A, so we'll open it up to the floor. So if you guys have questions, you can get some information, free consultation from the experts on the panel here. So Daniel, when crafting a story, or no, actually, let me ask you this question. With the intense amount of flow of information being bombarded at each person every day, what is the best way for getting your story above the fray?
Yeah, I mean, with TikTok, it's changed the game on everything, right? We have a 10-second attention span, which is scary. So what I'd like to tell people is this. I wouldn't worry so much about the amount of time. What I would look at is how much can I deliver to the audience that I have? And what I mean by that is, some people say, okay, I got one win, great, and they move forward. If you look at the companies that are doing it right, they're getting constant wins all the time. It's the unfortunate part of how things are now. You have to be in front of your audience all the time, 24/7. And what you can do is you want to always continue moving forward. So, for example, if you get on one TV show, you don't wait 3 weeks to get on another. You're constantly driving and driving. The biggest companies never stop. Like, I look at the last 2 years, Coca-Cola didn't stop advertising because of the pandemic, right? Even Coca-Cola still has to advertise, and everybody knows who they are. Most of us in here are not as big as Coca-Cola. So I always tell clients, don't stop, because I think that's the biggest thing I see is they stop and they don't continue pushing forward. Can I add 2 quick things to your previous question? Yes. One thing is, when you look at challenging, what we notice when we take on most of the companies now that want to be in Web3 Metaverse, they actually want to tell the audience they're doing so many things. Like, they're launching 5 different technologies at one time, which is challenging. So I like to tell them, hone in on one thing. Look at one technology, one piece that you're doing, and really start to be known for that, and then add on more pieces. The other quick one is global expansion. I think it used to be, if you wanted to grow your product and service, you had to focus on one market. So I'm only going to focus on the US or Canada or Philippines. But the great thing is, you could be based in the Philippines, and you potentially could launch your product in the US, in Canada, in Europe, in other places, before you even enter the market you live in. Because this is so global, it's the amazing part. Now, obviously, you need to make sure your strategy is correct, and you want to make sure you're working with the right people. But I think it is possible now, and we're seeing this, to actually launch your product and service globally without focusing only on one single region.
Awesome. So we're going to open it to the floor, but before we do, I have one question. By show of hands, who still likes to receive information by email? Okay, we got a couple of people. All right. Who likes to get information via text? All right. What about Facebook? Who's still using Facebook? Oh, nobody using Facebook. Okay. The WhatsApp. Everybody is on WhatsApp. And then TikTok. Is everybody in the audience using TikTok? We got a couple of people using TikTok.
Couple dancers.
So
Yeah.
this just goes to show you kind of have to know who your audience is and how they're receiving information. So, all right, if by show of hands, is there someone that might have a question in the audience? Oh, this fine, handsome young gentleman here in the black t-shirt. Front row, front row.
Yeah, you actually alluded to it, Chris, so I'd love for you and the others to expand on it. I was going to ask the question around what are you experimenting with where you know there's no direct ROI, and what do you learned so far? Like, what are some of the metrics you have established that have worked? You started to allude to it, and I appreciated your candor, because I think that's a sign of maturity that the industry needs to evolve to. We have to get to the place where we go, we don't know the answer, right? Because this is a ongoing evolution, and if it's not, then we're not doing anything new, right? So I really appreciated your candor. I'd love for you to expand on maybe some of the specific like failures you've had, or like lessons you've learned testing spend or testing things, and if there isn't anything specific, just elaborate on that more, because I thought it was a good thread.
Yeah, no, just trying to be as honest as possible and trying to bring value in the same time. But essentially, to your question, when you're marketing a Web3 project, right? It's you geographically, like what David mentioned earlier. That's actually number one. What are the countries that you're targeting? And with today's digital marketing technologies, you can actually target specific groups within those key markets, right? So already just there, it's kind of a shortcut, right? So biggest mistake we did in the beginning was we just went out. We didn't necessarily invest a lot in the mass marketing, but we tested the different markets to see where we would get the most engagement, right? And based on all the data that we received, we figured out, well, you know what, Southeast Asia actually is our market, right? And that's why we decided to triple down on the Southeast Asian market. So predominantly Thailand, Vietnam, Indonesia, Korea, Japan, and those countries. But I would say the biggest mistake in the beginning is I think it's like any tech startup entrepreneur, right? You think you start a project or you start a product, you think the world is going to gravitate towards it, and you think you're going to get all the attention of the world because you think you have the best idea, right? But the reality is there's a million other people that have probably the same idea as you or better. Are they executing it and deploying it the way you are or not, right? So at the end of the day, it's more of, for me as an entrepreneur, it's more of feeling and talking to people like yourselves, and picking people's brains and trying to figure out, okay, we're headed to the metaverse, right? Whether it's in 5, 10, 50, 100 years from now, I don't know when it's going to happen, but what I see right now in the market is I see things like Minecraft and Roblox with 50 million daily users. It's insane, right? Like, you're seeing early iterations of a metaverse, but what really is the metaverse? I think that was the first question that we were going to address, right? What really is the metaverse? I could ask this question to 1 million different developers in the space that could give me 1 million different definitions of what it is. So I don't know, to keep it simple for me, it's like, if you look at the internet today, it's something that you look at. For me, the metaverse is an iteration of the internet where you're inside, right? It's immersive, right? So it's technology, right? And whether you like it or not, it's going to happen, right? And this is why I decided to take a stand this year to get involved, actively involved, because, well, I'm very, enthusiastic about, I love NFTs, I love art, I love anything that is a disruptor culturally, right? Regardless of the industry. And when it comes to Web3, I'm just, we're in a stage right now. We keep making mistakes, but to your
Chris,
question,
I'm gonna interrupt you there because I think we're almost out of time.
Sorry.
But what I
Sorry.
really heard you there is that not to be afraid. Like, there's not a mistake when you're trying out different sectors of your marketing plan. You can put a little bit, this is the beauty of the digital era, is you can put a little bit of money into Facebook, you could put a little money into TikTok, you can put a little money into Discord or whatever venue and get some pretty immediate results. Then you know where to put more money. If it's catching fire, great. If not, then you move on to the next area. Okay, we're gonna take 2 more questions. Anyone else? I have a gentleman back here with a hat, the New York hat on. Maybe we could get him a microphone. There we go. All right.
Hi, I'm Cameron. I'm the founder of Philippine Graphic Artists. We have around 130,000 members. My question is, for someone like Tudor, are you, for example, interested in collaborating with someone like us?
Very much. We are very much looking forward to collaborating with artists and people that are trying to get themselves into the Web3 space. In our metaverse, the way that we're building it out, we are going to have like virtual galleries where artists can display their art. They're going to act as a marketplace, so people can actually not only display but also sell their art. And collaborations with artists and people that put together like a lot of artists into like digital galleries is very interesting to us. So for sure, we would love to collaborate with companies like yours.
Okay.
Excellent.
Thank you.
What's your name, sir?
Cameron.
Okay, Cameron. So you're going to meet with Todor
Yes.
afterwards and spark some magic.
Thank
And
you, thank
that's
you.
how that's done. Okay, and we have room for one more question. All right, we're going to go with the lovely lady here in the front row. Sorry, sir.
Hi, good morning. Coincidentally, my name is Lovely, and we're actually developing XR. So we have a project funded by the government. And one of our biggest challenges was that we're developing with something that is a frontier technology. So my question is, how do you adapt to that since you're handling Metaverse and XR? Where do you stop? Like, how do you continuously adapt and also just stop from adapting essentially?
Oh, very good question. How do you stop? Well, it's how do you keep growing and how do you keep evolving your story? Daniel, do you want to take this one?
Yeah, so I think when it comes to something like that, like I mentioned before, start to be known for one thing. So if it's XR and that's what you want to be known for, you want to start getting the message out to the world. The media here is very important in the Philippines, TV. These things are really important as well. So I'd start telling your message to them. What we noticed in the beginning is they didn't always know all the questions to ask. So what we would do is we actually would provide them questions or question examples, which was very important. Sometimes people don't cover stories because they honestly don't understand it and they don't want to feel stupid. So I think it's also important that you can gather some media in a room, have a day where you walk them through exactly what you're doing. You're not trying to sell them on a story, you're just trying to educate them. And I think that's a really important way. So start educating the media, start educating people that can gain visibility for your story, and then you'll really be known for that one thing.
All right, so we're going to wrap it up here. So I think a couple great key takeaways for today are sitting down and figuring out what your customer avatars are, figuring out what your messages are going to be, and then not being afraid to experiment with how you are messaging out your story, the audience that you're connecting to, and then really getting behind those things that catch the spark and that catch fire. So I'm going to say thank you very much to Daniel, to Chris, and Todor for joining us on the stage. And I do have one actual little request of the audience. So my nephew Davis, he is turning 13 today back in Canada, and every year I happen to be on stage for his birthday, and I do an NFT getting the audience to wish him a happy birthday. So I'm wondering if you guys would support me in wishing my nephew happy birthday. So on the count of 3, if you don't mind, just happy birthday, Davis. 1, 2, 3. Happy birthday, Davis! Woo! All right, excellent. Great job, guys. Thank you so much for joining us here today.
Thank you so much.
Philippine Talk TV. See you next year.